Okay, real briefly, we're going to do belt tension on a rotary saw. This is our outward mounted iron saw or forcible entry saw. There's a couple conditions under which we need to check our belt tension, right? One is our daily check. We're just going to take a look at our visual indicators, and we'll get to that in a moment. Another is anytime you move a blade, anytime you change blades or move from the inboard to the outboard position, we need to adjust and verify our belt tension. And also if we have poor performance, such as if we're cutting metal with our metal cutting blade, our motor is spinning appropriately, sounds right, but our blade bogs down and doesn't cut. That's another indicator for needing to adjust. So first things first, we'll just identify the parts here. There are three components to our belt adjustment. We have our retaining bolts, we have our adjustment screw, and we have our visual indicator. Anytime we're going to make an adjustment, the first thing we need to do is loosen our retaining bolts. If we don't loosen our bolts, we can adjust at our adjustment screw all day long, and it's not going to loosen or tighten our belt tension. So the first thing we do is just release the tension on here. You don't need to back them off all the way, just a couple of turns and get them loose. Now about this visual indicator, this is a good starting point for your belt tension. What do these lines mean? Alright, these two lines are the parameters for where your indicator should be set for your initial belt tension. Right? As a belt wears, this will change, but typically this bar should be directly in the middle of these two lines. We can see here that this bar is too far back, which means our belt is loose. So if we go and start this saw, our blade will probably turn appropriately, but as soon as we bury it into a material, it'll bog down and it won't cut. Right? So I want to get this bar in between these two lines. I'm going to do that by tightening our adjustment screw. And you can watch here as I tighten this screw that the indicator bar draws more towards where it's supposed to be. This one was very, very loose. You can see that we're getting closer to where we need to be. And right now, for our initial setup, this indicator bar is between these two lines, right? Once we're there, I'm going to tighten my my bolts up. They don't need to be cranked down on. Just nice and snug. Once it's snug, it's time to verify. The first verification is on the bottom of the saw. You'll notice that there's a cutout here. It's just big enough for you to slide one finger inside and feel the belt tension. If you've never felt a belt before, this won't mean anything to you. If you have, it should feel something like an alternator belt. So if you haven't felt one before, just have somebody else verify it. So I just feel the belt tension and say, okay, that feels about like my alternator belt. Now the second verification I need to do is run the saw and bury the blade into its intended material. This saw is not ready to go back onto the truck until that's been done and we know that it's been adjusted appropriately.